Imagine spending your entire life working toward one dream, only to have the people you trusted most steal it from you. Imagine watching someone else board the plane that was supposed to change your life, while you're left behind, crying in an empty airport. But what happened 5 years later left everyone speechless, especially the family who betrayed her. Before we begin, take a second to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We bring you powerful stories about betrayal, hope, justice, and unforgettable second chances. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Emily Carter had always believed that family was supposed to protect you. Even when life became difficult, even when money was tight, even when people disagreed, family was supposed to stand beside you. That was what her late mother had taught her before she passed away when Emily was only 12 years old. She still remembered those final words as if they had been whispered into her ear only yesterday. No matter what happens, Emily never stopped believing that kindness will always find its way back to you. For years, those words became the light that guided her through every hardship. But life had a cruel way of testing that belief. After her mother's death, her father, Robert Carter, tried his best to raise Emily alone. He worked long hours as a mechanic in a small repair shop on the outskirts of Chicago. Every evening, he came home exhausted, his hands covered in grease. Yet he never forgot to ask Emily about school. They weren't rich. Far from it. Some weeks, they struggled to pay the electric bill. Other times, dinner was nothing more than peanut butter sandwiches and canned soup. Still, Emily never complained. She knew her father was doing everything he could. 2 years later, Robert remarried. At first, Emily thought life was finally getting better. Linda, the woman Robert married, smiled often and spoke with gentle words whenever other people were around. She promised Robert she would love Emily like her own daughter. She promised they would become one happy family. But promises are easy to make. Keeping them is something entirely different. The day Linda moved into the house with her daughter Jessica, everything changed. Behind Robert's back, Linda's smile disappeared. The warmth in her voice turned cold. The woman who had called Emily sweetheart suddenly started calling her lazy. Jessica, who was only a year younger than Emily, quickly learned from her mother. Whenever chores needed to be done, Emily did them. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, vacuuming, washing dishes. Meanwhile, Jessica spent her afternoons scrolling through her phone, shopping online, or hanging out with friends. Whenever Robert came home, Linda made sure everything looked perfect. She would place an apron on herself just before Robert walked through the front door. Jessica would pretend to wipe the kitchen counter. Emily would remain silent. She didn't want her father to feel guilty. She kept telling herself, just work harder. Things will get better. Years passed. Emily graduated high school with excellent grades. Her teachers admired her determination. Her classmates often wondered how she managed to earn top grades while working part-time at a neighborhood grocery store every evening. What they didn't know was that Emily barely slept. Every morning, she attended classes. Every afternoon, she worked. Every night, after everyone else had gone to bed, she sat at her tiny desk beneath a flickering lamp, studying until 2 or 3 in the morning. Her dream was bigger than the life she was living. She wanted to become an engineer, not because of money, not because of fame, but because she wanted to build things that made people's lives better. Bridges, schools, hospitals. She believed that if she worked hard enough, she could earn a scholarship to study abroad and create a future her mother would have been proud of. One evening, while Emily was solving advanced math problems at the kitchen table, Linda walked by and glanced at the stack of books. She let out a sarcastic laugh. So, you're still wasting your time with those books? Emily looked up politely. I'm studying for an international scholarship. Linda crossed her arms. A scholarship? Jessica overheard the conversation and burst into laughter. You actually think people overseas are waiting for someone like you? Emily didn't answer. She had learned long ago that arguing only made things worse. Linda leaned closer. You should stop chasing impossible dreams and focus on reality. People like us don't get opportunities like that. Emily smiled softly. Maybe, but I'll never know if I don't try. Linda rolled her eyes and walked away. But deep inside, something dark had already begun to grow. Jealousy. Not because Emily had money, not because she had influence, but because Emily had something Linda and Jessica lacked. Hope. Weeks turned into months. Emily filled out applications, wrote essays, attended interviews, and completed every requirement she could find. There were days when she felt like giving up. There were nights when exhaustion nearly defeated her. Yet every time she thought about quitting, she remembered her mother's voice. Kindness always finds its way back. Those words pushed her forward one more step. Then, one chilly autumn afternoon, something happened that changed everything. Emily had just returned from work. She opened the old metal mailbox outside the house. Among the usual bills and advertisements was one large white envelope. Her hands trembled. The logo on the front belonged to the international university she had dreamed about for years. She stared at it for several seconds. She was almost afraid to open it. What if they had rejected her? What if all those sleepless nights had been for nothing? Taking a deep breath, she slowly opened the envelope. Her eyes scanned the first sentence, then the second. Suddenly, tears filled her eyes. She couldn't believe what she was reading. She had done it. She had been awarded a full scholarship. Tuition, housing, books, everything was covered. All that remained was obtaining her student visa and preparing for the journey that would change her life forever. Emily covered her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. For the first time in years, every sacrifice finally felt worth it. She ran inside the house, her heart racing with excitement, completely unaware that the happiest day of her life had just become the beginning of the greatest betrayal she would ever face. The scholarship letter remained clutched tightly in Emily Carter's trembling hands. For several long moments, she simply stood there, staring at the words she had dreamed of reading for years. Congratulations. You have been awarded a full scholarship. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes once again. She had done it. Every sleepless night, every extra shift at the grocery store, every sacrifice, every cruel word thrown at her. It had all been worth it. Emily wiped away her tears and rushed through the house. "Dad," she called excitedly. "Dad, where are you?" Robert had just stepped through the front door after another exhausting day at the auto repair shop. His blue work shirt was stained with grease, and fatigue showed on his face. The moment he saw Emily running toward him with tears in her eyes, his heart skipped a beat. "Emily, what's wrong?" Instead of answering, she handed him the letter. Robert adjusted his glasses and slowly began reading. As he reached the final sentence, his eyes widened. He looked back at his daughter before wrapping her in the biggest hug he had given her in years. "You did it," he whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. "I knew you could." Emily smiled through her tears. "I couldn't have done it without you." Robert gently shook his head. "No, sweetheart. You earned this. Every single bit of it." For a brief moment, the house felt warm again. It felt like a family. But standing quietly in the hallway, Linda watched everything. She didn't smile. She didn't congratulate Emily. Instead, her jaw tightened. Her fingers slowly curled into a fist. Jessica stepped beside her and looked toward the living room. "She actually got it." Linda nodded without taking her eyes off Emily. "I guess she did." Jessica crossed her arms. "So now she'll leave us?" Linda didn't answer immediately. She simply continued staring at Emily. Then, almost under her breath, she muttered, "Not if I can help it." Over the next few weeks, Emily worked harder than ever. There were medical examinations to complete, university forms to submit, travel documents to organize. Every day brought another step closer to the future she had imagined since childhood. One afternoon, she received an email from the university. Everything had been approved. The only thing left was her student visa interview. Emily prepared for it as carefully as she had prepared for every exam in her life. She gathered every required document: her passport, her scholarship letter, financial papers, university acceptance forms, identity documents. She placed each one neatly inside a blue document folder. Nothing was left to chance. The morning of the interview finally arrived. Robert drove her to the U.S. immigration office. Before she stepped out of the car, he smiled proudly. "I know you're nervous." Emily laughed softly. "A little." Robert placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "They're going to see exactly what I see." "And what's that?" "A young woman who refuses to quit." Emily hugged him tightly before walking inside. Hours later, she came running back toward the parking lot. "Dad." Robert immediately knew. "You got it." Emily nodded excitedly. "My visa was approved." Robert laughed louder than he had in years. He lifted Emily into the air like she was still a little girl. "I'm so proud of you." Back at home, Emily carefully placed her passport and newly approved visa inside the same blue folder. She looked at them again and again, hardly believing they were real. Her flight was only 12 days away. For the first time in years, the future looked brighter than the past. That evening, while Emily worked an extra shift at the grocery store, Linda quietly walked past her bedroom. She stopped. The bedroom door wasn't locked. She looked around the empty hallway. Robert was still working late. Jessica was downstairs watching television. Linda slowly pushed the door open. She stepped inside. Everything in Emily's room was neat. Books lined the shelves. Engineering notebooks covered the desk. A world map hung above the bed with one country circled in red, the place where Emily would soon begin her new life. Linda's eyes finally settled on the blue document folder. She picked it up, opened it. Inside lay Emily's passport, her student visa, her scholarship documents. Everything. Linda stared at the passport for several seconds. Then an unsettling smile slowly appeared. She quietly closed the folder. Instead of putting it back, she slipped it into her handbag. Later that night, Jessica entered her mother's bedroom. "Mom." Linda closed the bedroom door behind her. "I've been thinking." Jessica sat on the edge of the bed. "About Emily?" Linda nodded. "Tell me something." Jessica shrugged. "What? If Emily leaves? What happens?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "She gets an amazing career. She becomes successful. She'll probably never come back." Linda's expression hardened. "And what about you?" Jessica looked down. "I'll still be here." Linda walked closer. "I've spent my whole life making sure you have every opportunity." Jessica remained silent. Linda lowered her voice. "I refuse to let Emily have the future that should belong to my daughter." Jessica looked up, surprised. "What are you saying?" Linda smiled, a smile that sent chills down the room. "I'm saying, plans can change." The following afternoon, Emily returned home carrying groceries. She immediately noticed something strange. Her bedroom door was slightly open. She was certain she had closed it before leaving. She stepped inside. At first, everything looked normal. The books were still there. Her clothes hadn't been touched. Nothing appeared out of place. Then she reached for the blue folder. It wasn't on the desk. She checked the drawer. Nothing. She searched beneath the bed, inside the closet, on every shelf. Her breathing became faster. No. She searched again, and again. Panic spread across her face. "My passport. My visa. They're gone." Emily ran downstairs. "Dad." Robert hurried into the hallway. "What happened?" "My documents. They're missing." Robert frowned. "What do you mean missing?" "They were right here this morning." Linda slowly walked into the room, pretending to be confused. "What happened?" Emily looked at her desperately. "My passport and visa are gone." Linda placed a hand over her chest. "Oh my goodness. Are you sure you didn't misplace them?" Emily shook her head immediately. "No. I always keep them in the same folder." Jessica joined them, acting equally surprised. "Maybe you left them at work." Emily looked at her. "I would never take them to work." Robert's face grew serious. Everyone helped search. For the next 3 hours, the entire house was turned upside down. Closets, drawers, boxes, cabinets. Nothing. Emily sank onto the living room floor. Tears filled her eyes. Her flight was only days away. Without those documents, everything she had worked for, everything she had sacrificed, could disappear in an instant. She had no idea. The worst betrayal of her life had only just begun.